In a world that praises power, it's easy to mistake confidence for character, but sometimes true strength walks quietly, dressed in simplicity. Cut to street level. A bus pulls over at the curb. The doors hiss open, and Clara Evans steps out, mid-30s, calm face, neat but modest clothes. Her shoes are slightly worn. She adjusts her coat against the cold wind and looks up at the courthouse towering ahead. Clara Evans. To the world, she looks like an ordinary woman, quiet, polite, maybe even a little out of place. But beneath that calm is a woman in the legal world once called the Iron Dove, the youngest senior partner in one of the top firms in the country, now walking into court by choice, not for fame, not for money, but for something simpler: justice. Cut to a group of journalists standing nearby, whispering as they check their schedules. Journalist 1. Big case today. The landlord's got 3 lawyers lined up. Journalist 2, chuckling, and the tenant's got her, gestures toward Clara. Doesn't look like much of a fight, does it? They laugh quietly. Clara walks past them, unfazed, holding her briefcase tighter. Cut to courthouse doors opening. The sound of echoing footsteps inside. The world often underestimates quiet people. That's what makes their victories unforgettable. Inside, the courthouse hums with low chatter. The lighting is stark, and sterile sunlight filters through tall windows, bouncing off polished marble floors. Clerks shuffle papers, lawyers rush past with folders in hand. There's a weight in the air, of formality, mixed with fear. Clara walks slowly, scanning the hallway numbers. Her eyes land on Courtroom 3B. Sitting outside, on a wooden bench, is Maggie Turner, late 20s, clutching a file of rent notices. She's dressed modestly, clearly nervous. Clara, gentle. Maggie Turner? Maggie, startled, then relieved. Oh, yes, you must be Miss Evans. Clara, smiling warmly. Just Clara's fine. Are you doing okay? Maggie, honestly, not really. I didn't sleep last night. The landlord's lawyer called. Said it's pointless to show up. He's friends with the judge, apparently. Clara, steady tone. Then it's a good thing we showed up anyway. Fear only wins if we don't show up. She sits beside Maggie, placing her briefcase gently on her lap. There's a motherly calm in her voice. Maggie, quietly, you really came. I mean, I still don't understand why. You don't even know me. Clara, smiling softly. I know what it's like to feel unheard, and no one should stand alone when the truth's on their side. Maggie, thank you for doing this, even without pay. Clara, justice should never have a price tag. They both stand as loud bell chimes, the courtroom doors open, and a clerk calls the next case. Clerk calling case number 204B. Turner versus Halverson Properties. Maggie exhales shakily. Clara gives her a reassuring nod. Clara, let's go make things right. The courtroom is grand and intimidating. Wooden panels, brass fixtures, and heavy silence. On one side sits the landlord, a smug man in an expensive suit, scrolling his phone. Beside him, his lawyer, Mr. Crane, sharp, arrogant, mid-40s, adjusts his cufflinks. The other side, Clara and Maggie take their seats quietly. Maggie keeps her head down. Clara organizes her files neatly, her movements calm and precise. Suddenly, a side door opens. The bailiff stands tall. Bailiff. All rise. Everyone stands. Judge Robert Harrison enters, a man in his early 60s, tall, silver-haired, and oozing authority. His expression is cold, his stride measured. He sits, straightens his robe, and glances around with thinly veiled superiority. Bailiff. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Robert Harrison presiding. Judge Harrison, you may be seated. Everyone sits. Harrison picks up the case file, skims it quickly, then looks at Clara. Judge Harrison. And you are? Clara standing politely. Clara Evans, Your Honor, representing Maggie Turner, the plaintiff. Judge Harrison, mocking tone. Evans, smirks. Any relation to the Evans and Moore law firm downtown? Clara, calm. No relation, Your Honor. He chuckles lightly, tapping his pen against the desk. Judge Harrison. Pity. You might have needed their help today. The courtroom chuckles softly. Clara gives a slight smile, undisturbed. Maggie glances at her nervously. Some people wear arrogance like a robe, mistaking it for authority, but arrogance often mistakes humility for weakness. Judge Harrison clears his throat, flipping pages of the file. Judge Harrison. All right, Ms. Evans. This appears to be a civil dispute over rental terms. How long have you been practicing? Clara. Long enough to know every case deserves a fair hearing, Your Honor. A slight raise of eyebrows from a few in the audience. Harrison's lips tighten. Judge Harrison. Coolly. We'll see. Let's begin. The landlord's lawyer, Crane, strides to the front, oozing confidence. His voice fills the room. Crane. Your Honor, this is a simple case. My client lawfully terminated the tenant's lease due to non-payment and violations of building policy. There's no evidence to suggest otherwise. He gestures toward Maggie, dismissively. Crane. The plaintiff is simply attempting to avoid responsibility. He sits. The judge nods approvingly. Judge Harrison. Thank you, Mr. Crane. Miss Evans, your turn impresses us. Clara stands, taking a calm breath. She walks toward the bench, placing a few papers before the clerk. Clara. Your Honor, the documents I've submitted include receipts showing regular rent payments, signed by the building's property manager. You'll also see a maintenance request Maggie filed 6 months ago about black mold, which the landlord ignored. Crane smirks, whispering to his client. The judge flips through the pages without much interest. Judge Harrison. And where exactly did you get these receipts? Clara, steadily. From the building's official office, Your Honor. They're dated and verified. Judge Harrison, dryly. I see. And this verification, is that something you did yourself, or did a professional handle it? Clara. I reviewed the originals, yes. Judge Harrison, with mock sympathy. Well, that's cute. But this isn't a classroom project, Miss Evans. This is a courtroom. We rely on evidence, not enthusiasm. A few quiet chuckles ripple through the audience. Maggie shifts uncomfortably. Clara's face remains calm, her hands folded in front of her. Clara evenly. I understand, Your Honor. That's why I also have witness statements from other tenants who experienced the same rent hikes. Judge Harrison, interrupting. Statements from tenants? Laughs lightly. Unless your witnesses hold law degrees, I'm not interested in hearsay. Maggie looks crushed. Clara glances at her gently, a reassuring nod. She turns back to the judge, unfazed. Clara, with respect, Your Honor, tenants have a legal right to testify when their contracts are violated. Judge Harrison, leaning forward, tone cold. With respect, Miss Evans, don't lecture me about the law. I've been on this bench longer than you've probably been alive. The room grows tense. Crane leans back, smirking. Maggie stares down at her lap. Clara holds her silence, her eyes steady on the judge. When arrogance meets integrity, silence can speak louder than any argument. Beat. The judge clears his throat, looking back to his papers. Judge Harrison. Fine. Submit whatever you have. We'll move to cross-examination after lunch. He bangs the gavel lightly. Recess. The courtroom starts to disperse. Maggie sits on a wooden bench outside, Her shoulders slumped. The sunlight from the tall windows casts long shadows on the marble floor. Clara stands near the vending machine, pouring herself a paper cup of water. Maggie softly, "He hates us. You can see it in his face. No matter what we show him, he's already decided." Clara walking over, "It's not hate, it's blindness. He's too used to looking down on people to see what's right in front of him." Maggie shakes her head. "Maggie, I should just give up. He's going to side with them. They always win." Clara, sitting beside her, "Maggie, listen to me. The law is only as strong as the people who dare to use it. You stood up today. That's already a win." Maggie, "But they laughed at you, Clara. Even the judge." Clara, smiling gently, "That's fine. Let them laugh. Truth doesn't mind being underestimated. It just waits until everyone stops talking." A beat of silence. Maggie looks at her, something shifting in her eyes. "Maggie, how are you so calm?" Clara, "Because I've seen worse rooms than this, and I've seen arrogance fall before honesty every single time." Maggie smiles weakly, nodding. "Some people fight with anger, others fight with wisdom, but the strongest battles are fought with grace, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't rush, just stands its ground." Clara stands, straightens her jacket, and picks up her briefcase. "Clara, come on, lunch break's almost over. Let's go show them what quiet strength looks like." And court resumes. The air feels heavier now. The landlord's side is confident, whispering and grinning. Maggie and Clara sit quietly. Clara's briefcase rests beside her foot, worn but dignified. Bailiff, all rise. Judge Harrison returns, taking his seat. He looks less patient this time. Judge Harrison, "All right, let's wrap this up. Mr. Crane, proceed with your cross-examination." Crane stands and circles the table like a predator sizing up prey. Crane, "Miss Turner, you claim the landlord raised your rent illegally. Yet I have here your lease, which clearly states rent adjustments are permitted after 1 year. Did you not read what you signed?" He waves the paper dramatically. Maggie fidgets, looking down. Maggie quietly, I did." But Crane interrupting, "A yes or no will do, Miss Turner. Did you read it?" Maggie looks to Clara, panicking. Clara gives her a small nod, steady, calm reassurance. Maggie, soft but firm, "Yes, I read it. But the increase wasn't what was agreed on. It doubled, not adjusted." Crane, mocking, "Not agreed on. Tell me, Miss Turner, do you have written proof of this mysterious agreement?" Maggie hesitates. Crane smirks. Maggie, "It was verbal. He promised." Crane, cutting her off, "Verbal? So, no documents, thank you." He turns to the judge, feigning sympathy. Crane, "Your Honor, the plaintiff's case rests on verbal promises and tenant gossip, hard evidence worthy of the court's time." He sits smugly. Maggie lowers her eyes, humiliated. Judge Harrison, "Noted. Miss Evans, anything to add before I make my ruling?" The courtroom falls silent. Everyone expects Clara to falter, but she stands calm, collected. She opens her briefcase and pulls out a thick folder. Clara, "Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to present Exhibit D, a series of email correspondences between the landlord and property manager." She walks toward the clerk and hands them over. The judge frowns slightly, but motions for her to proceed. Clara, "You'll see that in these emails, the manager refers to the new rent rates as unapproved and potentially illegal." The building owner responds, and I quote, "They'll pay or leave. I've got friends on the court." The courtroom murmurs. Crane's confident smirk vanishes. Judge Harrison, snapping, "Order." He glances through the papers. his expression tightening. His tone shifts, subtly defensive. Judge Harrison, how did you obtain these emails? Clara, steady. Through a legal request to the City Housing Board, Your Honor. The judge's jaw tightens. Crane stands, agitated. Crane, Your Honor, this evidence is circumstantial. We don't know its authenticity. Clara, interrupting calmly. Actually, Mr. Crane, you do. The manager signed a written statement confirming these emails. Page 4, last paragraph. The courtroom goes quiet. Crane looks furious but speechless. The judge avoids Clara's gaze. The truth doesn't shout. It waits patiently for arrogance to trip over its own pride. Judge Harrison clears his throat, visibly unsettled. He takes off his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Judge Harrison, this changes a few things, but still, your client was behind on rent, correct? Clara, she withheld rent after 2 months of unaddressed health hazards. Mold, leaking pipes, unsafe wiring. She filed multiple complaints, all ignored. The city's inspection report confirms this. She hands over another paper. The judge reads it silently. His posture stiffens. His earlier smugness fades into unease. A beat. Then he sets the paper down slowly. Judge Harrison, quietly. Mr. Crane, did you know about this report? Crane, stammering, we're going to challenge its validity, Your Honor. Judge Harrison, coldly. But you didn't. Judge Harrison, fine. We'll reconvene after reviewing this document. The court stands in recess for 20 minutes. He bangs the gavel hard and leaves the bench quickly, his expression unreadable. The courtroom buzzes with whispers. Clara stands near the water fountain. She's calm, sipping water. Crane storms past, phone in hand, muttering angrily. Crane, under his breath, who the hell is she? Cut to the judge's assistant, catching up to him down the hall. Assistant, sir, about that woman I looked her up. Clara Evans. She's Clara Evans, former senior partner at Dalton & Marks. Represented the Supreme Council in 2016. The judge stops walking. His eyes widen slightly. His expression flickers between shock and embarrassment. Judge Harrison, what? That's impossible. That woman's dressed like a assistant. Like someone who doesn't care about appearances, sir. But it's her. A long pause. The judge looks down, clearly unsettled. Pride blinds even the sharpest eyes. Sometimes it takes humility to see the truth that's been standing in plain sight. The judge returns, noticeably quieter. Clara and Maggie stand as he enters. The mood has changed. Curiosity replaces mockery. Judge Harrison, clearing throat. Court will resume. Miss Evans, before we proceed, I wasn't aware of your prior credentials. Clara, smiling lightly. They're not relevant, Your Honor. What matters is my client's case. Her tone is gracious but firm. The judge nods awkwardly, shuffling his papers. Judge Harrison. Yes, well, proceed. Clara steps forward, her voice steady, her tone rising just slightly enough to command respect. Clara. Your Honor, this case isn't only about a lease. It's about power, the kind that thinks it can intimidate those with less. The law is meant to protect, not to humiliate. And today it's time we remind ourselves of that. Her words land heavily. Even the audience feels the shift. The judge listens quietly, his previous arrogance melting into reflection. Some lessons aren't taught through defeat, but through dignity. Crane calls his client, the landlord, to the stand. The man looks uneasy. Clara cross-examines. Clara. Mr. Halverson, you told your tenants the rent increase was approved by the city, correct? Landlord. Yes. Clara. Yet this letter from the housing board, dated 3 months earlier, clearly denies your application. She hands it to him. Would you like to explain that contradiction? The landlord fumbles, sweating. Landlord, I must have misunderstood. Clara, gently. Or misled. He says nothing. The audience murmurs again. Clara, and did you or did you not threaten eviction to anyone who spoke publicly about this? Landlord, no, She opens another file, revealing printed text messages. Clara, your message on June 14th. Complain, and I'll have you out in a week. Is that your number, sir? He swallows hard, unable to speak. The judge exhales slowly. Judge Harrison, that'll be enough. Clara nods politely and returns to her seat. Maggie looks at her in awe. Maggie whispering, You really are something else. Clara softly, No, I'm just someone who believes silence should never be the language of justice. Judge Harrison adjusts his glasses. His voice carries a new weight, one of humility. Judge Harrison, after reviewing all submitted evidence, including the verified correspondence and inspection reports, this court finds the landlord in violation of tenant protection laws. Maggie gasps softly. Clara's face remains composed, but her eyes reflect quiet satisfaction. Judge Harrison, continuing, all rent demands are nullified. Damages to be compensated within 30 days. Case dismissed in favor of the plaintiff. The gavel falls. Applause breaks out softly among the audience. The landlord lowers his head. Crane avoids eye contact. Clara looks at Maggie and smiles gently. Maggie, teary-eyed, You did it. Clara, we did it. Golden sunlight bathes the steps. Reporters rush forward, cameras flashing. Clara raises a hand politely. Reporter, Miss Evans, you're Clara Evans, aren't you? Why take this case for free? Clara pauses, looking out at the small crowd. Her tone is warm, sincere. Clara, because the law belongs to everyone, not just those who can afford it. The reporters fall silent for a moment, surprised by her simplicity. In a world obsessed with status, true greatness often hides behind humility. Clara turns to Maggie, who's smiling through tears. Maggie, you gave me my life back. Clara, no, Maggie. You fought for it. You just needed someone to remind you that you could. They share a quiet hug. The sun sets behind them, soft golden light flooding the scene. Judge Harrison sits at his desk, staring at Clara's case file. He exhales deeply, shame flickering across his face. He picks up a pen and writes a short note. The camera zooms in as he sets it aside, addressed to Clara Evans. Even those who wear power sometimes need to be reminded what justice truly means. Clara and Maggie walk toward the gate. A court clerk catches up, holding an envelope. Clerk, Miss Evans, the judge asked me to give you this. Clara opens it. Inside, a handwritten note. Judge's note. Thank you for reminding me why I started this job. I hope one day I can serve the law with as much grace as you did today. Clara smiles faintly, folding the note. Clara softly. We all learn eventually. Clara walks down the quiet street. Streetlights flicker on. She passes a group of young law students reading near a cafe. Glancing up at her curiously, they don't realize who she is. She stops at a crossing, waiting for the light. The wind brushes her coat. Her face is peaceful. Some heroes don't wear robes or command rooms with their voice. They restore faith in the system quietly, one case at a time. Moral: never judge someone by their silence. It may be the sound of wisdom. If this story moved you, take a moment to share it. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss an inspiring moral story like this. Your support helps us keep creating stories that remind the world about justice, kindness, and the power of humility. Leave a comment below and tell us what lesson you took from Clara's courage and compassion. Would you have done the same in her place? Every like, comment, and share helps spread the message that real strength lies in empathy and quiet confidence.